Hi there, good morning, or whatever part of the day you're joining us from. I'm Jeanette Woodburn, a Senior Marketing Operations Manager here at Iterable. And I actually run Iterable at Iterable, which means I get to use our amazing product every day. So excited to share more about that with you all here. So I know we've got a range of folks joining us today. So first things first, if you're not familiar with Iterable, we're an AI-powered customer communications platform. It's multi-channel. It gives you all your channels orchestrated and activated in one place. So, as examples, that includes email, which we'll be talking about a little bit today, as well as SMS, push, embedded, and WhatsApp, which launched earlier this year. We work with some amazing brands. It's really cool to see what some of our customers do with our product. And just to name a few, that's Wolt, Fabletics, SeatGeek, and Box. Though I know some other amazing customers are joining us today too, if they feel like calling themselves out in the comments. So welcome everyone to Iterable's live product tour. This is a chance for you to see our product in action and ask product questions directly to our experts. We're doing these on a monthly basis with a rotating cast of characters and experts focusing on different areas of our product each time. Today is extra special. It's the first one I'm doing, but I also have a fondness for the subject matter. We're going to be in the very capable hands of Justin Folk, who leads our in-house deliverability team. I will let Justin speak to the details and specifics of what he and his team do here at Iterable. He will do that far better than I can. But I'll try not to sing his praises for too long so that we can get into the material. But I will just say I really appreciate having them available as a resource here at Iterable. I know our customers appreciate them as well. Just the experience and expertise that we have at our disposal as a result is really wonderful. So this event is taking place today on Zuddle, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So if you're not a subscriber or following us on YouTube or LinkedIn, now's a great time to subscribe so that you can see when we share new content and join us when we do live events like this. Because this question always comes up, yes, we are recording today. And if you want to see previous live product tours, you can actually see those in our archives as well. Second item of housekeeping, just if you have questions throughout the session, please post them in the comments. And after Justin is done doing the live product tour, we'll see how many we can get to. So with that, Justin, come on through.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thank you for the very warm welcome, Jeanette. I will intro myself here in a second. Let me go ahead and just set my screen up, and then we will go ahead with just a quick intro of myself, and then we'll dive on into the content.
Sounds good. I'll wait till you're all settled and then.
All right.
Looking good.
We should be able to see my screen. Again, thank you, Jeanette. My name is Justin Folk, as Jeanette mentions, and I do oversee our global email deliverability services group here at Iterable. And essentially our charter for our customers is we are set out to provide the best in-class infrastructure monitoring and email sending reputation advisory service aimed at helping clients successfully deliver their messages to consumer inboxes. So putting it in more simple terms, we are those long-term strategic partners for our email customers to ensure that they are aligning with email best practices when it comes to who they're sending to, how often they're sending to them, and what they're sending to them. And so we're working with them so that they can become a good sender. And then once they're a good sender, we work with them on becoming a great, exceptional sender. And I'm happy to chat with everybody today about diving into the Iterable platform, but with a little bit of a different spin to it, kind of have a point of view in the realm of email deliverability and looking at how you can look at data, different things that you can do from a segmentation standpoint, as well as looking at different feature sets, AI feature sets that you can use to maximize that potential for one, sending positive signals to the mailbox providers, and just meeting your recipients where they are in terms of their relationship with you as a sender and a brand. And as you kind of typically navigate within Iterable, we usually start from creating that campaign, segmenting, curating that list, executing and looking at the data. But from a deliverability perspective, we're actually going to do the inverse of it. We're actually going to start looking at the data from a completed campaign perspective. Deliverability is built on data, and messaging insights helps you interpret those right signals and then take actions upstream, whether it's taking actions on better segmentation or utilizing different tools. So we're actually going to start on the data piece, and that's where I'm going to begin here. So if you can see my screen, we are in a demo environment, so we have some dummy data to play around with. But we're going to start analyzing a campaign, in this situation, a triggered journey that we have set up, and we want to understand how it's performing. So we are going to click into this particular journey. And then you get to, as you probably already know, for a lot of you, you get to the design page with some options here. We want to look at the analytics. So we're going to dive into this view analytics button here. And then that will bring us to this page here that many of you might be familiar with. And there's a couple of data points that I really want to talk through with regard to just key important insights into how to take action on your email program if you see these data points that are reaching certain thresholds. We're going to dive into hard bounces, soft bounces, spam complaints, and open rates, and just touch on those. There's a lot of different metrics that obviously make sense and that are important, but I do want to highlight these as being particularly important when it comes to the world of email delivery and deliverability. And I do want to kind of make sure that we understand the difference there. So there definitely is a difference between email delivery and email deliverability. Email delivery is a mailbox's acceptance or rejection of your email attempt. And deliverability is essentially going one step further and essentially saying, hey, where did that message end up? Did it end up, if it was accepted, did it end up in the spam folder? Did it end up in the inbox? Did it end up somewhere else? Just because your message is accepted by the mailbox providers doesn't necessarily mean that it always goes into the inbox. So keep that in mind. So we're going to start on the delivery side and start with assessing bounce rates and hard bounces in particular. When you're looking at your campaign performance, you definitely want to bring in hard bounce, or excuse me, you definitely want to bring in email bounce rate. And we can easily do that for you. You can go into the metrics that you can pin here and then bring in that bounce rate. And there's a lot of subcategories underneath email bounce rate. And we'll touch on the two main ones and then dive even further. So let's start with hard bounces. So essentially hard bounces, they are events that are triggered when a sender sends to an address that basically is undeliverable. So there's no MX record behind that recipient address. Maybe that recipient accidentally, fat-fingered their email address in the sign-up process. It's an incorrect address. Essentially, it's a non-deliverable email address. This is a really important metric to take a look at because hard bounces over time, if you as a sender have a high enough rate of it and it's consistent, that can actually damage your email reputation over time as a sender, because that's essentially telling the mailbox providers that your list acquisition processes aren't really up to par or up to speed with industry best practices and what they expect. From a industry threshold perspective, there's no hard rule around, hey, stay within this threshold. But typically what we like to see in terms of green versus yellow or green versus red is staying at 0.5% or lower for your overall hard bounce rate. And that's really key. In addition to hard bounces or assessing hard bounces, there is a thing in the email industry called typo spam traps that can get you into trouble as well as an email sender. So typo spam traps are essentially really common misspelling of domains. So if you think of Gmail versus Gmail or Yahoo with 1 O versus 2, those are very common misspellings. And sometimes when you are sending to those very common misspellings, that can trigger some typo spam traps because those are just very common in the industry. So you also want to take a look at those common misspellings and make sure that you're cleaning them from your list. And going back to the list acquisition process, if you are receiving high hard bounces, you definitely want to take into account what that collection process is. Do you have a single confirmed or a single opt-in process for your program? Should you put in a double confirmed opt-in process? Should you make sure that the recipient who is typing in their email address, in fact, is intending to use that exact email address and making them confirm that? That's usually best practice. And there's also third-party tools out there in the industry like Kickbox that can support senders in validating email addresses as well, and essentially cleaning potential hard bounces from that list before sending. So those are hard bounces. So definitely want to take a look. You want to ensure that your hard bounce rates are within acceptable levels, so that you're, over time you're not trending to potentially harm your email sending reputation, as well as hitting high typo spam traps. The second piece that I want to talk about are soft bounces. Unlike hard bounces and spam complaints and unsubscribes that Iterable permanently suppresses after the first attempt, soft bounces are not actually permanently suppressed within Iterable. Soft bounces typically are temporary failures that are results or consequences from something else going on with your email program. There's a lot of subcategories underneath soft bounces. If you think of, from an architecture perspective, you could get a soft bounce from a mailbox provider because your SPF or your DKIM is not authenticated. You could get a soft bounce because you have reputational issues. Maybe your IP is blocked from a third-party block lister, or maybe the mailbox provider themselves have put your IP on their own block list. So you could have reputational soft bounces, and you can also have common, technical soft bounces. So maybe, the sending server and the receiving server just had a timeout, and there was a technical issue there that resulted in a soft bounce, or something as simple as a full mailbox of a recipient you were sending to, and you just can't receive, they can't receive those messages until they clean out their mailbox or get more storage capacity. So soft bounces are definitely there's a lot of topics, I should say, underneath soft bounces that you should take a look at, versus just kind of taking soft bounces as truth from an aggregate standpoint. And there's a great way in which you can actually do that within Iterable and taking a look at that soft bounce, the soft bounce categories. Iterable does a great job. If you click into the viewing details for those delivery errors, if you click into that, in this section here, in the delivery section, you also have this area here where you can click on that link for delivery. In the bounce section here, Iterable actually creates a lot of different buckets for the specific soft bounce reasons that are coming back from the mailbox providers. So you can take a look, and we actually have technical documentation that you can take a look at here, and we will link some of these technical docs out to the team and the group so that you can take a look here. But we essentially categorize a lot of different soft bounces that you can look at under the recipient state. So take a look at this, but going one step further in looking at your soft bounces and really understanding exactly what is going on and why you're receiving a soft bounce, I always think it's really important as a sender to look at the raw bounce reason code descriptions. You can actually do that in Iterable by, if you scroll to the top on this page and you click export events, you can actually export a CSV of your email bounces and the actual raw reason codes for them. So if you select email bounce and select export, you can export a CSV. And this is one of the examples, again, kind of dummy data to share with the team. But this is something that you can take a look at and see exactly with this bounce message what's happening. And it's really helpful to do that because oftentimes, especially if there's reputation issues, it will be very descriptive of, hey, your IP of .123 is blocked. Here is a link. Here's how you can, align with best practices to mitigate that block, or here's a link to submit a mitigation for that issue. So always take a look at that raw reason code there. All right, so that's the delivery side of things. We are now going to get into the deliverability side of things. So a very, very important metric to always assess as a sender are spam complaints, your spam complaint rate. Spam complaints are among some of the most damaging negative signals that a mailbox provider collects. They look at this very, very closely. And as many of you have heard in the industry in terms of recent updates, especially recent requirements with Gmail and Yahoo that aligned with technical requirements as well as sending practice requirements, the spam complaint rate was something that they touched on. They explicitly said as a part of their requirements, they don't want to see anything above or at 0.3%. So 0.3% is that threshold. Anything above that, they are certainly going to flag it. They'll certainly start filtering. And eventually, if that continues, they'll just start rejecting those messages altogether. So you definitely want to ensure that you're taking a look at the spam complaint rate. And before actually that announcement was even made by Gmail and Yahoo, the rule of thumb or the standard was actually even more strict than that. As a deliverability consultant, we typically advise our customers to stay within a 0.08% threshold. So definitely staying within that is very, very important. And there's a lot of reasons why a spam complaint might be generated. And so you want to take a look at all aspects of your email program. If you do have high spam complaint rates, it can happen from a list acquisition process. Maybe as a sender, you might not be collecting organically all of your recipient lists. Maybe you might be sharing those lists, which is not necessarily best practice. And maybe that recipient who signed up from an upstream, maybe brand or a lead gen operation and is getting messages from you as a particular sender, maybe they aren't familiar with your brand and they're essentially saying, hey, how did I get this? It could be a cadence. Maybe they're getting fatigued and you're sending too much to them. There wasn't proper expectations set up front with like a preference center of how often they wanted to receive emails or anything like that. Or content, maybe they can't actually see where they can unsubscribe versus complain about the message. So you want to make sure that you're assessing all aspects of your email program and testing things out to try to reduce that spam complaint if that spam complaint is high. And then from an industry standpoint, another thing I just want to call out from a ingestion point of view is that there are a couple of mailbox providers in the industry that actually don't pass back publicly a feedback loop for spam complaints. Gmail is probably the biggest one that does not do that. They decided not to have a public feedback loop for senders and ESPs for privacy considerations. So the only way for you to actually see a Gmail spam complaint rate is utilizing the Google Postmaster tools tooling that they own. So definitely, if you're not utilizing Google Postmaster tools, Google that. Definitely be using it. It is certainly best practice. It gives you a ton of crucial information direct from Gmail around your IP and domain reputation status, spam complaint rates, among a whole other list of really valuable insights there. So always be looking at your spam complaint rate and assess that. And from a final standpoint, in terms of metrics and valuable metrics are engagement metrics like open rates and click rates. Obviously, over the recent months and years, with privacy protections, they have made opens and clicks less reliable, but they're still useful from a directional signals standpoint. You can kind of assess and deduce whether messages are making it into the inbox when you're matching these engagement rates between domains. So if you're looking at a Gmail domain versus Yahoo domain, and maybe from an aggregate standpoint, all of your domains are averaging 30% open rates, but maybe Yahoo or Microsoft is averaging in the single digits, like 3, 4, 5, and the discrepancy is huge. That's a good indicator that there's probably an issue going on with that particular mailbox provider, and you need to double click into that. Or if you're matching various metrics like engagement with spam complaint rate, if you have very low spam complaints with low opens and clicks, it's likely that your message is going into the spam folder because the recipient actually can't find the message easily in order to negatively engage with it or even positively engage with it. So you can kind of deduce those things as well as the inverse. So high spam complaints, or if you have spam complaints with high engagement, with spam complaints, it's likely that that message, or at least a portion of that message, or those messages are getting into the inbox because people are actually engaging with it, whether it's negative or positive. But with the spam complaint rate and matching that, you can kind of deduce those insights. As well as there's a lot of third-party tools that you can use to assess this as well, with regard to testing test addresses or seed addresses to understand inboxing insights directly. So that is the open and click rate side of things. The other thing that I want to let the group know is that it's very, very important to not just look at your campaign from an aggregate standpoint. You want to take a look at the domain by domain perspective. You want to take a look to ensure that you are doing well across the board in the breadth of your domain list. Because just because you have a 97 or 98% delivery rate and you think, hey, historically that's good for me as a sender, doesn't necessarily mean that that's good across the board with all domains, because there are, no mailbox provider shares algorithms with each other. They're all their own secret sauce, and it's all proprietary to them as a mailbox provider. So you want to take a look there, and you can do that through segment analysis. So if you're in the campaign and you click on segment analysis, you can go directly into this view here, and then select the segment for domain, and then select whatever metrics you want to bring in to do a comparison. And this is crucial. Again, each domain or each mailbox provider is separate. So they're not going to share algorithms with each other. They're all unique to those mailbox providers alone. So if you're doing well across the board, but maybe Comcast you're really struggling with, you want to take action specifically with Comcast recipients. So that's the data perspective. A lot there, a lot of good insights there, but data really rules all in terms of interpreting what you're going to do with the upstream activities to optimize your email program. Next, we're going to dive into segmentation very quickly. Segmentation, obviously, as an email sender, as a marketer, segmentation is pretty known in the ecosystem with ISPs. It's a very valuable tool to ensure that you are sending to the right audience with the right content and at the right frequency. Segmentation is part of that. But a lot of times what I've seen as a deliverability consultant, and even managing the team and managing our cohort, is that a lot of our marketers can go way beyond what they're currently or how they're currently segmenting. They can usually what we see is we have an active bot or an active segment and an inactive segment, and so there's no kind of middle ground. But there definitely needs to be a middle ground, because not everyone is going to want to engage like the active folks. There's going to be a group that want to engage, but maybe not to the cadence that you're sending to everybody on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So you want to ensure that you're listening to that middle ground and creating a middle ground. And you can easily do that in the segmentation standpoint by identifying those recipients. So obviously, you can identify engagement, but just as important, you need to identify lack of engagement. And this is one of the templates in how you can actually do that. So this is something that I built here just before. But essentially, this is saying within the segmentation piece is, hey, I want to identify all of our users that have neither opened an email over a specific time period. So in this situation, we're actually going to look at this from a 30-day perspective, so 30-day look back, or anyone, or excuse me, and anybody who has clicked or has not clicked on an email over the past 30 days. So you're identifying those folks and making sure that you create that middle ground for them. So and obviously you can play with this. This is very flexible, but essentially you're saying, I want to identify this group and I want to treat them differently than my active group. And eventually, as a really intelligent marketer, you're creating these waterfalls So you have an active and then maybe semi-active, and as these recipients kind of go back and forth in these buckets, you want to basically treat them differently. Eventually, you might have to do a re-engagement campaign or sunset that recipient address altogether because they just no longer find your messages relevant to them. And one pro tip here is that in these situations, you definitely want to create, in both an open and click perspective, a relative date. Because this is kind of a rolling dynamic list, and we created it as a dynamic list here, definitely best practice. Folks are going to come in and out of this bucket, and so you want to create a dynamic list and then have a relative date setting here for both, actually, for both time frames here, so that it's rolling. So it's not a fixed time that you're segmenting for, but it's rolling. So that's one. And then the second scenario is actually identifying your ultra engagers. On the flipping it to the inverse, you might have different engagers that are engaging literally with every single message that you send to them, and you want to obviously treat them as a loyal a loyal participant of your brands. And you can do that by doing the same thing in terms of engagement, plus utilizing an amazing iterable AI feature called brand affinity. And again, this is maximized. It's not going to guarantee, but it will help maximize that potential for sending those positive signals to the mailbox providers based on positive engagement to build that scale or sustainable sending reputation. So you want to make sure that you look into brand affinity. It essentially assesses past engagement data from your particular recipients and then predicts out 30 days what's likely to happen with that recipient and how we are tagging internally that recipient and their likelihood to engage or how they're viewing you as a brand. So flipping on the inverse of things, you want to set up a segmentation of basically essentially finding all recipients that have either opened or clicked. So same situation. And again, you want to create the relative dates here and creating a brand new group, applying your brand affinity label. So brand affinity equals loyal. So if you find, folks are ultra high engagers from an engagement standpoint and they're known as loyal, maybe you want to send them, really good deals because they have been loyal to you. And maybe you want to treat them differently than your positive brand affinity recipients, or differently than your neutral. Obviously, you want to treat them differently than the negative tags as well. So definitely, there are great strategies to be had on the segmentation side of things, which is what I want to call out here. Finally, very quickly, I want to run through a couple of really great AI features that you can use within Iterable as well. So if we go back to a draft that we're creating here, and let's say, I'm a marketer, I'm working on a draft, and I want to apply send time optimization. We can do that. So send time optimization is a great AI feature that's actually free to use. So it's within the general suite of tools. If you're creating in your draft, if you're in the draft itself, you can go to the delivery option and then select edit. And then send time optimization is right here. So essentially what that means is that you are toggling on a feature that assesses past engagement times of your recipients, and it will optimize when that message is delivered to that particular recipient based on their past engagement and when they've engaged with your messages historically. So you can toggle this on, and you can, for your campaign, if you're sending a blast campaign, you can set to when you want the entire campaign to be completed in terms of that delivery, with editing the amount of hours here. So that's one feature. The other feature, and the final feature I want to share that's a really great one as well in terms of sending or maximizing that potential to send those positive signals to the mailbox providers, is through message frequency capping or send time frequency. Where you can do that is actually in the settings section here. And if you click into the settings section of your project, you can go to frequency management. I'll just discard the changes here so we can go to that page. And then you can see the functionality here. So the optimize AI feature in this is actually part of our AI suite. So this is a paid for feature for the frequency side. So it is not out of the box, free, available for everybody to use. You have to opt into it, but it's a great tool. You do have out of the box the ability to do hard capping, and you're able to do it within the marketing channel itself. This is not transactional channel specific. This is marketing channel specific. You can do it from a channel level, so all messages within the marketing channel, or you can do it within messaging type. So if you have multiple marketing messages like a weekly newsletter, if you have a deals email that goes out once a week or something like that, as well as a welcome series, you can do it on specific message types. And you can set the cap here to whatever cap you want based on hour, not hour, day, week, or month, so that you're not overdoing it with your recipients. Email fatigue is a real thing. And recipients, if they are getting more messages than what they expected because the expectation was not set, they will complain about that message or unsubscribe. So you want to make sure that you are just, at the end of the day, listening to your recipients on the positive and negative signals as an email sender to maximize, again, that theme, maximizing the positive signals going to those mailbox providers so that you're building that good reputation long-term. And that is all that I had. And my apologies for running over. Very excited about this topic. I want to pass it back to Jeanette.
Hey, Justin. I mean, speaking for myself, I'm totally fine with you running over time. So I do have a few questions here. We'll see. We'll just see what we can get to. As we mentioned, we're running over, so we understand if people need to head out, but we'll try and get to all of these so that you can come back and watch them later to answer the most common question. Yes, we are recording. So the first question is from Lawrence, who is wondering if there is an option for creating seed lists. We don't own seeds, first party seeds, but we do actually have a great deliverability tools partner. We are utilizing Inbox Monster, which is a great deliverability tools partner. There is an integration for seeds utilizing their seed network that you can actually seed based on the specific campaigns you want to seed for. So that's a great option, but we don't have anything seed-wise that we manage internally. We utilize that through third-party partners. Awesome. Thanks, Justin. And then I think I managed to answer part of Ier's question, but he was asking about back during the reporting or dashboard piece, but is wondering if there's a report or dashboard that can show bounce details on a monthly basis. So I was able to answer that there is that you can see bounce rate on a monthly basis, but he's wondering if there's a way how you would go about getting to that detail.
So if I'm understanding the question clearly, looking more from a detailed perspective of specific bounce descriptions on an ongoing basis. So from a programmatic standpoint, I don't believe that there would be something that we could set up and essentially if they're asking in terms of like a recurring export, that would essentially just be going into in the time frame that you want to take a look at, just always going into and exporting those raw reason codes to analyze and take a look. Not to my knowledge, I know if we have an ability to kind of programmatically export those specific reason code details on a regular cadence. It would just need to be, you need to go in to actually do that.
Yeah, and Ira, if it helps from your end, kind of the approach I take is I look at in that dashboard, I'm looking at the if I'm seeing a bounce rate that's making me sweat a little bit, I'll go in and look for campaigns that are specifically driving that, and then dig deeper in that too, just because I want to see if there's something about that campaign that that's triggering that too.
It's a good call. Yep.
And then I think that's all the questions that that have come in. I had a couple that I'm sitting on that I'll hold off on because I think you got into them a little bit. But thank you all for your questions. Thank you all for spending this time with us. And thank you especially, Justin, for the wonderful knowledge and expertise that you've just been sharing. I really appreciate any time that I get to hear from you and your team. So hopefully you all watching have gotten something helpful out of it today. As I mentioned before, we did record this. We'll be making that available via email to the folks who joined us on Zettle. You can also engage with us on YouTube and LinkedIn. We do also have the previous live monthly product demos available there as well. If you have any questions for our team, something that comes up later, you can connect with us at iterable.com/demo. If you're a potential customer, and obviously customers, you've got your CSMs, your implementation manager, your everyone on your account team. I will also mention, I believe everyone should be able to get access to our Iterable Academy in case you want to dig in deeper to anything that Justin mentioned today. And otherwise, thank you all again, and we'll hopefully see you next month for